passengers, and welcome aboard the TV pilot's license with service to Blue Mountain State. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that on today's flight, we will be serving sandwich cookies, and we would highly recommend not asking why they are warm to the touch.
Welcome to the TV pilot's license. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How you boys doing today?
I'm doing really bad after hearing warm to the touch. Sorry.
Just wanted to say, as someone who is in the honors program at Blue Mountain State, we are so much more than just our football program. We are a highly regarded academic university. We are a research institute. And I hope we really discuss these elements of our campus life today.
Well, gentlemen, this week we are going to be diving into the fall tradition that is college football and Blue Mountain State. But before we do so, Max, can you tell folks what this podcast is all about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes, and making us want to watch more if they made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps us so much. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
Hell yeah.
And Rich, what is your question of the week that might also be an in-flight question?
Can you say who this in-flight question came from?
Yeah, this week's in-flight question came to me on Instagram from Gene from Massachusetts. So Gene, thank you for this in-flight question, and we like
Gene
it
the
so
machine.
Much.
Mean
Rich
Gene
stole it.
And yeah, I liked it so much I stopped doing my own work. So obviously this is a show entirely about the college football complex built around an amalgamation of so many different teams and stories and lore of college football. I want to know, what is your favorite college football tradition? There's so many. It seems like every single team has at least 3 or 4. What do you got?
Max?
Does it have to be football?
No.
Oh.
Why not?
Okay. Already throwing the Gene, I'm so sorry. Max just shit all over your question.
Yeah, I'm mean. I'm lean. If we're talking just football, I really do love the Wisconsin jump around tradition. I think that's just so much fun that we're keeping this 90s one-hit wonder by House of Pain alive in spirit in Madison, Wisconsin. If we're talking all of college sports, I'm going a little smaller than Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm giving it up for a little school in Upland, Indiana called Taylor University and their Silent Night tradition.
Yes, this is the coolest thing in the world.
Which is an annual basketball tradition where all the fans dress up in incredibly elaborate costumes, and they do not make a peep until the school scores its 10th point of the game, at which point they absolutely lose their goddamn minds, causing the game to be delayed while they celebrate. And it is so much fun. And to go to a school like Taylor and have something so rich that the entire student body can get involved with together once a year that everyone knows about around the country, that's what college athletics feels like. To me, like, to have those traditions, to have those moments, something that can only happen on a college campus that everyone gets involved with. I love what it embodies. Shout out to the Taylor University Trojans.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Jeff?
I mean, I'll follow
Jeff, this must have been tough for you because you know the most of. You're the most plugged in.
Who knew that I would be into college sports? I only talk about it all the time. So I picked 2, and one was one that I've experienced in person a few times, which is Michigan football and Mr. Brightside is a religious experience that I can only...
Okay.
I have seen so many undergrad students literally riot when that song comes on in the stadium. Whoa. And they flash the lights. It is truly insane. They are singing every single lyric of that full-ass song. While the players are playing, they are still singing, no matter if the team is on offense or defense, which can be very distracting if your team is on offense. But I will say the other thing that I love a rivalry trophy. I think that they're so goofy sometimes.
Oh, yes.
One of my things that I love is Paul Bunyan's axe is the coolest trophy in sports.
Is this Montana?
This is not up for debate. This is between Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Give him a weapon.
And it is it is gigantic. And one of the
What's wrong with our bucket? We get a bucket.
We get a spittoon. We get something to spin in.
Wow, 2 for 2 on UW Madison coming up in this.
I'm going to ruin that. There won't be a third.
My thing that I love about that is, like, if you're ever like, ooh, like, how is this so cool? When the Big Ten hosts a 10K in Chicago every year, and they have the trophies, and based off of if your school won or lost, you'll have the trophy at your stand. So, like, cool. I went, and IU had the brass, the old oaken bucket and the brass spittoon. That's fine. But then you see the kids from Wisconsin literally holding a goddamn axe, and you're like, I want that. That looks
that's pretty cool.
Really, really cool. Rich, what is your favorite college football tradition?
Number 3. I had to look this up because I don't know many of them. I very much enjoy the Iowa waving at the Children's Hospital. That's very touching. But for me, I got to go with Colorado School of the Mines, and I'm talking about Blaster the Burrow. I'm talking about every time they score a touchdown, someone from the school runs out a donkey to the 50-yard line, and that's how they celebrate. And that is absolutely, I think, in my mind, the best college tradition.
And we didn't even touch on turnover chainsaws, turnover slot machines, touching a big rock, all the other songs and things that happen. And this is what makes college sports great.
I think if I have to choose one of mine. Yeah.
There's a ton of them, and I highly recommend that in the comments below, tell us your favorite college football tradition.
Tell us your favorite big rock.
Yeah, comment your favorite big rock down below. Do you guys think you would even make it halfway down that Clemson run down into the field? I would get trampled immediately. I'd be out for the season before the game started.
I would rock the Death Valley run for sure.
You know those videos of like drunk dudes in England chasing wheels of cheese? That would be me at Clemson.
Yes.
Well, if you have an in-flight question that you'd like to submit, you can go to tvpilotslicense.com, or you can leave us a voicemail or shoot us a text at 213-290-1713. Let's talk a little bit more about Blue Mountain State.
Yep.
And we're going to start off with a medium-sized synopsis. 3 incoming freshmen attending Midwestern college football powerhouse Blue Mountain State must quickly adapt to college life and juggle football, girls, classes, and nonstop hazing. But before we get into this pilot too deep, Max, can you tell us how this show got made?
Is there a Midwestern state that could be qualified as mountainous?
No.
A pretty flat part of the country.
And I'm interested to hear you talk about this, because I always assumed that this was based off of West Virginia University, because at the time they were one of the top... Yeah, they were one of the top football programs in the country and one of the top party schools in the country. So it sort of meshed.
I always thought the jerseys were a nod to Florida because we were just coming off the most insane Florida scandals of all time, and I just assumed that was like,
it could also be a place. It could also be like a state of mind. Who's to say?
Yeah. It's always been that Blue Mountain state of mind. So, Max, how did this show get made?
In fact, we are talking about the pilot of Blue Mountain State titled It's Called Hazing, Look It Up. It's originally aired on January 11th, 2010 on Spike TV. It's TV for men. And we're talking about the show's creators, Eric Falconer and Chris Romano. Pitched as Animal House in the world of D1 football, Blue Mountain State is the creation of Falconer and Romano. The duo are both Emerson grads and previously worked together on a variety of projects, including Dan Harmon's Acceptable TV and the Sarah Silverman program.
I love that they're both Emerson grads. That's so funny to me. That's so funny. You couldn't have a college experience more divorced from this. You have classmates taking clowning and late night comedy writing classes.
When I toured Emerson and asked about athletics, they showed me the Quidditch field.
Wait, why'd you say it like that?
Did you
Quidditch.
pronounce that was
Quidditch.
Yeah, why did I say it like Quebecois? What's
Wait. Oh man, clip it.
Could you imagine?
Quidditch.
There's Max was is the American going to Hogwarts, being like, how do you say that word? Quidditch.
Yeah, Max. We should get back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Romano, a co-creator and lead writer, also appears in the series as Sammy, the first person we are introduced to in today's pilot. While the Blue Mountain State Mountain Goats may be a fictitious powerhouse, the show does have strong ties to the world of college football, with Ed Marinaro, Coach Marty Daniels, being a Maxwell Award winner and Heisman Trophy runner-up in 1971 as a running back at Cornell University. What? How accurate is this series? Well, in Marinaro's own words, I know there were programs around the country who watched the show and were cringing. It probably hit close to home. Uh-oh, they're onto us. Spike TV was looking to specifically develop a college football comedy, and Falconer and Romano helped them figure out what exactly they were looking for, answering the question of if it should be a powerhouse program or a scrappy underdog story. Partially inspired by Falconer's own New England high school football experience, the duo lined up interviews with a variety of notable football players and got them to spill their secrets to build the world of their university. Breaking away from the idea of focusing on a star, they knew they wanted a protagonist who was a backup and, in their own words, not a hero. Critics be damned, the show had the trust of its network, who with each script said, "We want more." Star Alan Ritchson, now of Reacher fame, would dare the writers to come up with ideas he wouldn't do. Over time, the series would evolve from the crazy anecdotes they picked up and boundary-pushing gags to delving into its character arcs. But today, it's all about the gags. So it's time to kick off today's episode in the pilot of Blue Mountain State.
Hell yeah.
All right. I'm
sorry. Give me a hell. Give me a yeah.
Let's dive into this show, shall we? And I think that, Max, that gives us a great amount of context for what we're diving into. And talking about context, we get a very interesting national media voiceover about what Blue Mountain State is, trying to set our expectations before we meet our two protagonists. And I'm going to call them our protagonists for this, but I welcome you both to challenge me in Sammy and Alex, right? Two very different sides of the college football experience. One attempting to become a mascot, while the other is a backup QB freshman recruit who is preparing for his first day as a Blue Mountain State Mountain Goat. With that said, how are we feeling entering this world?
I think
I'm actually liking this VO to start off. I think that you get what you need to know about BMS, the program, and where we're heading into. We get a very specific tidbit of last year's scandal-ridden championship season. That's fun. It gives you a lot to play with without giving away the game. And I actually like that we are setting up a world where the team is high status, because I think we've all seen our fair share of sports comedies, and they are usually lovable losers, from something like Little Giants, Bad News Bears. I don't know if you've ever seen the 70s Disney comedy Gus, starring Don Knotts, about a terrible football team that's in deep, deep gambling debts with the mob, who they get a horse who can kick field goals, and then he leads them to the Super Bowl.
No, not the horse. I wasn't expecting the horse at all.
Yeah, the original Air Bud is Gus with Don Knotts, but like that's what sports
we've got
comedies
Gilligan
usually,
and a horse.
They're usually bad teams who scrap their way to playing better. And this is now, whatever they do, however dumb they are, whatever hijinks we get into, or however buffoonish the characters are, they are good at football. That's what separates BMS.
I just realized I'm thinking about Bob Denver. Anywho, and also, like, creative choice wise, having them because I was about to say the same thing, Max, that the 2 or 3 lines of exposition that you get from the sports talk radio thing establishes that they're great, establishes that they have problems, and then you don't need to do anymore. It's like, all right, you know where you are. This is basically like fictional Alabama. This is, fictional Florida, etc. What you do also get is the ability to not go that hard on filming gameplay, because they do. Filming gameplay for football has to be an absolute slog. I mean, it looks really difficult. It's really difficult to show it being done well. Even in the practice scenes, it's like, okay, I don't know if you guys both have this, but whenever I see something extremely hyper masculine on TV or a movie, I'm like, these are all theater kids doing this, and they are. These are like, any one of these guys would have dropped what they were doing to go play the Lion King in New York in a second. The entire cast would have done that.
It's interesting you bring that up, Rich, because I remember, I think it was Friday Night Lights, them talking about how they filmed a lot of those scenes, and they would actually have guys who played college football, like D2, D3, who would come in just to film those things so it would look accurate. And then when they had to do a close-up shot, some very creative filming techniques. Max, you
this is not going to look like Remember the Titans. This is from the network that brought you 1,000 Ways to Die. Let's be real here. Like, let's keep the expectations in check.
Well, talking about keeping expectations in check, we do have these two, not traditionally star players, right? Like, even as Max said, we're focusing on a backup as our protagonist and a mascot, played by one of the producers and creators of this show. But after meeting these two and starting to see some of the hijinks that they're going to be getting involved in, including what we can only call, and Max, you've put it in our notes, the quickest threesome we've ever seen in this podcast history.
Indeed, 150 episodes in running.
On the other side, we have this star recruit, this number 1 running back in the country, Greg Shiloh, who seems to have everything already planned out for him, with football as the only thing rather than the full college experience. And Rich, you sort of mentioned this is a big-time actor coming in to do this show. I'd love to hear your perspective of meeting Craig.
Yeah, you gotta give it up for Smallville's own Sam Jones III, and I absolutely love seeing him. And this is actually my first exposure to him when I watched this series in 2009 is when it aired for the first time, I think. But this is someone who I have continuously seen over and over and over again. In future seasons, we get introduced to another running back character who I think is modeled after Marshawn Lynch, but he's played by a guy who's in the Meg, the Megalodon. And just seeing
is it
him
the shark?
pop up. Yeah. You said Paige Kennedy. That's his name.
Paige Kennedy. Yeah. That's
that's his name. And he's shown up in a lot of action movies and stuff like that. I love seeing him every time. But you do get a glimmer of people who are pretty large, sought after actors in this particular show, and the show that is I can't imagine a lot of people who were into Spike TV that weren't actively in a fraternity in college like we all were. So it is it's a difficult sell, and the fact that they got good actors and this was a launching point moment for a lot of people.
Well, Alan Ritchson, I mean, obviously he's a big star now, but he was also from that WB Smallville universe too, was he at this point?
Yeah, no, he had already been Aquaman, which he recently said he would never do again, even if they paid him all the money in the world.
Guys, I gotta come clean before we get too into this.
Are you Aquaman?
Yes. This, and I have limited time to record this podcast because my gills are drying up. This might be the Mandela effect of our entire friendship. I've never seen this show before.
Yeah,
that can't be true.
I've never seen this show before. This is the first time I've sat down and watched an episode of Blue Mountain State. I was surrounded by people for 4 years in a state school in Greek life with people making constant references to this show to me, and I smiled and nodded, and I never understood a single one of them. I've never watched this show.
This is okay. This is your Game of Thrones for me because I have only watched like the first 2 episodes of Game of Thrones ever. I think you've absorbed some of the show through osmosis, but the fact that you've never seen any of it while it was on multiple TVs in our house every week is
impressive.
pretty shocking. It is
Yeah,
pretty shocking.
That's
So
like
I-
living
Were
under-
you upstairs reading poetry?
Were you practicing
Yes.
the lines?
Yeah, I'm the guy who wanted to drop everything to go do the Lion King that you mentioned earlier. But
You could
as
have been the
someone
kicker.
who is coming into this blind, what I see off the bat is so much that I feel like pays homage to National Lampoon, and it pays homage to 80s college comedies and even things from the earlier aughts like Euro Trip and Road Trip. I see these clear archetypes within even the college sports world. I see us taking the idea of the professional clipboard holder, the backup quarterback who in the NFL can make tens of millions of dollars with an earpiece and a clipboard, and that's who Moran wants to be. I see the 5-star prodigy and what it means to have your entire life laid out before you and the inevitable break we know that's going to cause. I love the idea that we have a protagonist in Moran who just wants to be a backup and is trying to get away with doing as little work as possible compared to Sammy, who wants to be the mascot and will go to any lengths to achieve his goal. The person who wants the low status role is striving and clawing and doing anything to get it, while the person who has the high status job doesn't want anything to do with it. I love that inverse relationship. And so there is so much that does feel like classic comedy canon in this.
Well,
Absolutely.
this show does have to balance 2 things, right? We are talking about being on the Spike network, network for men, right? Where we have our football. and we
TV
know
for
that
dudes.
TV for dudes,
TV
1,000
for
Ways to
guys.
Die,
Yeah.
reruns of Entourage.
The first place that I got introduced to American Ninja Warrior. I think that this show does have a very big challenge, right? Because if you are marketing yourselves as a Animal House but with football, we have to have the football element, which I think the beginning of this pilot does do a pretty good job of introducing us into this world of a college football player and some of the temptations that come with that. But then also on the exact opposite end of that, you have the hazing, you have the hijinks that these people are going to be getting into. And I want to talk a little bit more about our Thad Castle character, because this just seems like, hearing that this was a character where the actor literally went to the writer's room and said, try to write something that I won't do, and seeing this first scene of a bunch of grown men we're just going to say shaving each other very, very carefully, and some very, very carefully placed shaving cream by the film crew. I'd love to know if there was an intimacy coordinator on set for this scene and this scene alone. But
You want to know if Spike
just calls it
TV...
the Spike TV just calls it the fuck guy.
yeah, that's on his IMDb credits. That's what
20th on the call sheet. Here comes the fuck guy.
Oh my God. But this scene, I think, does such a good job of introducing us to this clown type character that is just it is a wrecking ball, right? Like the ability for Alan to portray it is so much fun, because you can tell that this was a character that a lot of actors would be like, I am never going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then to have an actor fully embrace it and say, oh, I am going to make this an identity while I am on this show is so much fun. But Max, for your first time meeting Thad Castle, what do you think of this character?
I think so much of Thad is even removed from the football. I think that it's just the archetypes that we've seen in every like high school and college comedy. It's the alpha male buffoon. It's the guy who always gets his way and is going to like fumble his way up. I love that we get a sidekick for him too, someone who can just like echo and add on to his jokes. And yeah, I mean, everything that Thad Castle does feels like a trope that we've seen in 40 plus years of comedy. Because when we see actual football scenes, very little football in this pilot. And I think they maybe have 3 people on each side of the ball who are constantly running in and out of frame to be other positions. Kind of like when they did the first John Wick and they didn't have a budget. So like henchmen have to like lie on the floor and then like barrel roll out of frame and then get back up and die again. That's how they film football practice in BMS.
Yeah. Look, I think if anything, Alan Ritchson is such a great example of how the attitude you should have as a young actor of just like, hey, I know that you could try for something a little bit more prestige at that level. You just did Smallville. It's a teen heartthrob, but like a critically acclaimed one. But you get the chance to be a lead on a show. That's a massive opportunity. And the fact that he just goes for it in every single scene is honestly, it is pretty inspiring to see how he manages that.
Well, and Darin Brooks, who plays Alex Moran, he was a soap actor before this as well. And so I think what you're seeing is a lot of people who came to this where they wanted that break. I mean, even Ed Marinero, who we talked about, the former football player turned actor, he was like Hill Street Blues and cop dramas and things like this. So you have a lot of people who are coming from more serious backgrounds and are just game to play. And I think when you have an ensemble who comes in with that attitude of, we have done soaps, we have done teen dramas, we have done cop prestige things, and I just want to rip the Band-Aid off and have some fun, you could have a really good time. And people are committed to the material here, despite the insanity of what they're saying. Everyone plays it with like their full chest.
And let's also remember too that that Darin Brooks is fresh off a Emmy win for Days of Our Lives right before he joins this TV show, which is like, I mean, I can't imagine how many shows that that Spike actually greenlit, because it is an expensive thing to start producing your own content and stuff that's like brand new and like, you know, not a particular like documentary like Guy Code style show or anything like that. This is a big swing, and they did actually get good people for this.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about having fun, right? Because this show we talked a little bit about football. We are talking about hijinks. And Rich, you mentioned that this isn't a cheap show by any means. And one example of this, not only filming, where they filmed and how they filmed, but that fraternity party scene that had no less than 100 extras in it and was, I think, such a good way.
Yeah, but every party goer would die and then roll out of frame.
They would roll out of frame, come back in a different
Yeah, John Wick style, yeah.
Exactly.
John Wick, it's a John Wick party.
Yeah,
who could ask for more?
That's what happens when you're on a set. They're like, oh, this is a John Wick production. No, Keanu isn't here. You have 3 shirts available for you to change into every single time. But I think that this party scene is a really important one for this entire show, because it shows us a lot about character motivations, leaning into the buffoonery of a scene, and it also is probably one of my favorite, this is such a weird sentence to say out loud, but one of my favorite beer pong scenes I've ever seen in any form of media.
Top 50 at least, dude.
Yeah,
Top 50.
Well, I say that because, like, literally we could talk about some of the Animal House and like National Lampoon style movies and how they've depicted this, but this is really a fun way of showing like the idea of competing against one another, seeing these actors and like how they're embracing the concept of fun versus having a amateur job, but it's really a job in school. And I mean, what did you think about these like letting loose scenes that we had throughout this pilot?
Some of this, when it really gets into American Pie direct to DVD sequel territory, is, I think, for me, some of the weaker stuff in the show, because it's when it just starts to get a little heavy on debauchery for debauchery's sake. I love everything with Sammy's quest to earn the mascot role, I do not necessarily need to see him puking into a dog food bowl. Like that's for me my separation with this show.
Max, we have different tastes, and that's why we have this podcast.
I mean, I think that one of the things, though, is there are definitely, and let me say this to our audience, if you're like, ooh, football, I'm in that mood. There are definitely wait a minute moments in this show where you're like, this show is not for the squeamish. I will just say that there are some allusions to certain kinks, and we don't shame here, that some people might say, I don't need to listen to that by any means whatsoever. But I do like the idea of I'm going to go off on a slight tangent. The concept of a player being locked down with a high school girlfriend is one of the funniest things to me in this pilot, because I think that entire B plot is just so goddamn funny, because we saw it at IU. I'm not going to mention any person in particular, but there was a basketball player who came in with his high school girlfriend and then suddenly left without that high school girlfriend when he was preparing for the NBA. And it's just like, that to me, very, very funny.
Way to narrow it down extremely. I was like, I'm not going to name names, but here's 3 potential people.
There were many people who went to the NBA or
you also say
basketball.
It like we all saw. Like, I don't know, dude. I didn't see. I didn't see shit.
Practicing lines for the Lion King.
I was getting. I was getting
okay,
like.
Christ. Okay, wow. Well, I mean, we saw Thad Castle practice a couple lines too, but
Rich, what's on your mind?
Well, okay, so I thought that this is like such a great move because there's countless examples of this exact thing happening with professional athletes. LeBron James had married his high school sweetheart, if I'm not mistaken. There are many, many, many examples. I think Patrick Mahomes also knew Britney in high school,
Mahomes.
like they did in high school. That is a pretty consistent trope, and I think they were really smart for adding this plot line in, because it's not just going to be, I mean, there's going to be this push and pull of Craig Shiloh, like is he going to actually enjoy his college experience, or is this just going to be the next rung on the professional, high school to NFL ladder, basically?
So there's a lot of stuff that happens in this pilot, but I want to talk about this final sequence, because our big comeuppance, our big plot is they're given these journals that they have to keep and safeguard the entire time, and if they lose their journal, they don't want to find out what happens. Well, we lose a journal. We find out immediately what happens. And that is what we can only call a cookie race. That, Max, this was your first time watching. Would you like to eloquently describe what we saw happen on screen?
Yeah, that's definitely a generic sandwich cookie. No one is sponsoring this episode.
You can't do the Hydrox race in college anymore?
I was about to say it's a Hydrox race.
Oh, that really got back. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so for those unfamiliar, without giving too much away, a generic brand chocolate and vanilla cream sandwich cookie is placed between the butt cheeks of freshmen who lost their notebooks, and they have to relay race, and if they lose or drop their cookie, they have to eat said cookie. I do appreciate that Thad joins the race. I think that there is something about the star and the alpha male willing to also put himself on the line that says that, this guy is a grade A asshole, but also he wants to push these people, and he's willing to put himself out there to get the best out of these freshmen. And look, again, it is a gross hazing tradition, but that you choose to end on this chariots of fire moment involving sandwich cookies between your butt cheeks, depending on who you are, you can get a lot of comedic value out of that.
Yeah. Max, just so you know, because in the way that this progresses of Thad's insanity with being the best football player, but also looking like he's the best football player, working the hardest all the time, eventually ends up with him doing a ton of steroids and having like hallucinations about Bill Romanowski. He's like, Bill Romanowski is essentially his like insanity spirit guide, and comes back in multiple episodes, and it's
delightful.
It's delightful. Yeah.
Delightful.
So our pilot ends with, a very gross celebration, but it seems like a moment of bonding as well, which is important for any sports team. I just wouldn't suggest doing a chocolate cream sandwich cookie race to be able to initiate that bonding. But that really is this pilot. Are there a lot of hijinks in between? Sure. Are there a lot of characters that we met along the way? Yes, as well. But there are some things we didn't talk about, and I'd love to hear things that you loved about this pilot that maybe you'd like to give a little bit more shine to.
I've got two very quick ones. The first is specifically Chris Romano's delivery of "I'm going to erase that part" when blackmailing Chester to get the mascot job. The tone of it is so funny coming from that character specifically. I was really tickled by that. The second one is the 2010 iTunes free single of the week download for the theme song when the end credits play. I love that 15 years later I'm watching this on Netflix and I still get the little brief snippet of, this is the name of the theme song, here's where you download it. Yep. It's just such a fun time capsule of pop culture and the iPod generation that I actually really enjoyed seeing still kept in its streaming presentation a decade and a half later.
Absolutely.
Rich, what about yourself?
I'll throw in a Sammy line as well from the cold open of finished first. Still, I think is like one of the best. I finished first, right? Is that it was like
first one done?
Competition line. Yeah, first one done. Thank you. The choices that Thad makes in this show just tickle me so much watching this a full 15 years later. He is clearly the alpha male. It is not obvious that he's going to be like a comic relief for this show, but they make him scream like a girl so much in this show, and it tickles me every single time because I want to see, if there's one thing I want to see, it's a dude who is jacked to the gills be like reacting to things like an excited Girl Scout. It is so great. Alan Ritchson, you will forever be famous.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of jokes in here that I was just like, okay, great, like A+. And like there was one tackle that happened to a player, I believe between Thad and the Larry character, where they were like 9/11, never forget. And I was just
that was insane.
I was like, wow, that is wild.
That was truly nuts.
I was cracking up. Like I think that it's interesting. This show definitely leans into the idea of the absurdity to at some points extreme amount, but there are moments where it's just like, ooh, they just hit. They really just nailed that moment, and that was great. Let's talk about wait a minute moments though. Things that caused you pause. A show like this might have those moments that stick out. So I'm curious if there are any for you that came up while you were watching this pilot.
As a rule of thumb, I try to not just like nitpick jokes from 2010 because like that's not fun. Things change and it's all subjective anyways. So I'm gonna say this is the smallest championship football team I've ever seen. You want me to believe that they say they have like 16 national titles? You want me to believe that this university with dudes who look like Alex Moran are better than the Alabama Crimson Tide? I am not buying that for a second. Even by cable TV sports standards, this is a tiny football team who would get absolutely destroyed on that field.
Joke's on you, Max. This is a 7-on-7 team, so that's why they're so good.
I don't even think it was 7-on-7. I saw 4-on-4 in that practice.
Oh my God. Rich, what about yourself?
I think some of the lines for the coach are not quite fully formulated yet. And he does come into his own of like what this coach character is going to be. He's going to be like a very, very tough, but like a good role model, and like really sticks up for his players. Well, good role model. You know what I mean? But like he's not quite fully formulated yet, and but he does come into his own later. So that's basically where I want to leave that.
Yeah, and for myself, college football should never be played in a dome. I know Syracuse does it, and I saw the dome, and then I was like, what other team has a dome? We're going to get into what other team has a dome in a little bit.
Is this filmed at a CFL stadium?
You'll see in a second.
Are we giving a shout to the Idaho Vandals of the Kibbe Dome?
No, I also should not be played in a dome. But I saw the dome, and I was like, where the fuck did they film this? Like, literally was the first thing that came into my mind, but it should be played in the elements. That is a college football tradition as well. Playing in the snow, playing in the rain, and hiding for your dear life when it's thundering and lightning outside. We already talked about in-flight questions, and we will talk again about how to submit those at the end of the episode.
Thanks again, Gene.
Let's get into the history of this show. Short and sweet, 3 seasons and 39 episodes. The show was filmed primarily in Canada, which I know I was curious about, specifically in Quebec. So bonjour. The show was broadcast in the U.S. as well as in New Zealand, Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, and yes, Canada made this show, and they also got to watch this show as well. For the audience, I'm keeping something. I'm keeping a card close to my chest, and that is that we have a producer of the feature film that was based off of this show on this podcast. That's right. Rich Inman was part of the Kickstarter that helped to fund $1.5 million, which was the budget to get this show a feature film, which you can still find today. And Rich, I know you're Chris Romano and you are in contact about the points, right?
Yes. I am waiting for the back end residuals of the Blue Mountain State movie, and I know it made 500 mil at the box office, especially once it got to China. Things really took off. So, Chris, I'm waiting on the check. I'll hopefully talk to you soon about that. I'm actually pretty proud that I did that. I got to see I got a signed poster, which I don't think is in my possession anymore, and then I also got because I was living in LA, I got the chance to go watch like the preview cut of the movie before they finished up the special effects.
That's really cool.
So I got to see that like on the UTA campus. Some huge agency has like their own like movie theater basically where they do preview screenings.
UTA, did they play in a dome?
Yeah. University of Texas at Austin.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hook 'em.
Hook 'em horns.
Just to finish up the history, while Thad Castle probably is in the College Football Hall of Fame, this show did not receive any nominations or any awards, which is their loss. I would love to see Thad Castle on a surfboard.
What about Spike TV Awards?
None. But that is the history of this show. Rich, it is time for your game of the week.
Well, I think if you're going to talk about Blue Mountain State, you got to talk about college football scandals. And while a lot of them are very, very sad, some of them are pretty funny. So I would say 0.2% of them are pretty funny, and then the rest are really, really sad. Okay, first one, University of Georgia was recruiting one of the top high school players in the country and thought it might be a good idea to offer his sister a scholarship to join the track and field team to keep the family together. What was the problem? Well, University of Georgia doesn't have a track and field team. Who was this player? A, Todd Gurley, B, Matt Stafford, C, Herschel Walker, D, Terrell Davis.
I'm going to say TD, Terrell Davis.
I'm going to say Herschel Walker.
Geoff, you would be correct. It was Herschel Walker. I don't know if his sister at any point was a competitive track and field athlete, but it sure wasn't going to be at UGA. All right. My second and final question for you, because once again, most of these were extremely sad. I really do not want to get into the sad ones. Spot the fake. Obviously, the NCAA food rule stories. The food rule is prior to the current NIL
landscape.
Yes, NIL landscape. College football players were under extremely strict scrutiny for recruiting. And there are very specific rules about what foods you can give recruits, and to the point where it's not a violation. Obviously, here's an example: the bagel rule. You can offer a recruit a bagel, but it is impermissible to offer them a bagel with cream cheese on it. So stupid. Okay, spot the fake. Number one, Eric Couch got in more in trouble accepting a ham sandwich than he did getting a free flight on a private jet. B, University of North Texas lost scholarships because they gave a recruit barbecue from the cafeteria, which was fine, but someone also gave them outside barbecue sauce, which was not fine. They brought in a bottle to the cafeteria. Okay. C, Boise State had to forfeit scholarships because a recruit was given Taco Bell by a chaperone. D, South Carolina Gamecocks were okay giving players a cookie cake, but because there was writing and frosting, they got fined on the cake.
So we're naming the fake, right?
What's the fake one?
Ooh, okay. Cool.
Okay. I am going North Texas barbecue sauce is the fake.
What do you think, Geoff?
Just to be different, let's go Taco Bell.
Taco Bell is real. South Carolina Gamecocks cookie cake is real. And Eric Couch getting in trouble for a $4 ham sandwich.
Well done, Max.
We're all real. Yeah, the North Texas barbecue story was made up. But yeah, Eric Couch had to give a fine of $22 to a charity because he took a private jet flight valued at $13 and a ham sandwich valued at $4.
It was a different time. Airfare was less expensive. I believe it.
So right.
Well, Rich, thank you so much
thanks for playing.
For that game of the week. Gentlemen, our flight is coming to a land, but before we go, I have two questions for each of you, and that is, based off of the pilot and the pilot alone, would you watch more Blue Mountain State? Max, maybe for the first time you'll watch episode 2, and Rich, maybe for, I don't know how many times you're going to watch episode 2. And
loyal viewer.
And then the second question is, right now we're in an interesting spot in the sports landscape. There's a lot of football on TV. Boy, oh boy. You can watch Maction on Wednesdays, college football on Fridays, Saturdays, and then on every other day of the week, you can watch analysis of it. But I'm curious, do you think we need more dramatized or fictional football to be able to consume that maybe has comedy associated with it, drama, action, who knows? So, Rich, I'm curious. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's so interesting that you didn't bring up that this show might be coming back, both with Chris Romano, Alan Ritchson, and Darin Brooks all confirmed to join the cast. That is as of 2024. Now, I'm going to put myself back in the shoes of when I watched this for the first time as a freshman in college, and I'm going to say yes, I'm watching more of this as a freshman in college. Being outside the target demo doesn't really... some stuff is not for me right now. Some stuff was for me back then. So this counts as that. When it comes to sports-based TV shows, dramas, and comedies, 100% yes, because I'm trying to write a pilot about a minor league baseball team, and I'm going to watch more hijinks. Sports movies are some of my favorite movies. I want sports content. It's just fun. What about you, Max?
So I'm going to zoom out, and I'm even going to take myself out of the equation. And the basic question of, does this pilot make you want to watch more? If the mission statement is Animal House in the world of D1 football, mission accomplished. They hit that intersection that they are going for. And if you are someone who is a fan of Eurotrip, Road Trip, American Pie, things of that ilk, you will get a kick out of this show, and you will want to watch more. I don't know if it's necessarily so that I will want to watch more, but I would be remiss to say that they did not accomplish their goal and make the show they set out to make. I love sports comedies so much. It is one of my favorite genres. I love how it sets itself up for things like fish out of water stories, like Goldie Hawn and Wildcats. It sets itself up for underdog stories. Things like Air Bud and the Mighty Ducks, the Bad News Bears. It can also pull at your heartstrings and do things like Miracle, Remember the Titans. There is so much that you could do with sports films and sports comedies that, yes, we should see more of them. They are stories that you could relate to. There are so many directions you could go. And I do feel like it's taken a dip outside of like the dramatized film version. And I want to get back to hijinks of the 80s and 90s. We need to get the hijinks back into sports on TV and film.
Speaking of heartstrings, have you ever guys heard that story that the guy that Rudy is based off of was actually a huge asshole?
Yep.
Yeah, he was like the most miserable person in that clubhouse. Anyways.
Oh my God. For myself, I categorize this show in a very, very specific category. And Rich, I think you did a good job of putting us into, 2009, 2010 Rich and what it was like watching that. I'm going to put us in current day when I would rewatch this or watch the next episode. And that is when you're at a bachelor party and you have no idea what to watch. This is a good group getting ready watch. This is a good, everyone is drinking a beer and has no idea what to watch on the TV. This is something that I would absolutely put on and just be like, hell yeah, let's be a little bit more, let's remember some days and remember some guys while we're getting ready to go out. As far as more sports, I think the reason why people love sports so much is because there are stories that, we can attach to. And when you get a group of writers in a room that can overemphasize and over-romanticize certain aspects of that, whether it's rich in comedy or, we look at something like Friday Night Lights and thinking about the emotional struggle of growing up and playing football or whatever sport you have. That's why people attach to those shows, movies, books. I can keep on going. So yeah, more, please. Like, get creative, have some
Sports
fun.
are a metaphor for life.
Yeah, exactly. You win sometimes, you lose sometimes you break
Sometimes
an
it
ankle.
rains.
Okay. Sometimes it rains. But that, gentlemen, that is our flight. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find you wherever you want to be found. Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find me remembering 9/11, baby. Never forget. And you can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. Yeah. Didn't think I'd pull that quote, did you? And you can also find me and original sketch comedy from Max and myself over on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy.
Max.
Oh, you can catch me making cocktails in a beer helmet like Sammy, and on all things social media at Maxwell Sig.
And you can catch me trying to figure out what happened to all of my Hydrox cookies. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also watch our smiling faces on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. They are really helping this show out and making sure that more folks who like TV shows,
Immensely
and maybe
helpful.
like us.
Give us a hell. Give us a yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah,
if you
we're
can-
5-star recruits.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe even a 4-star recruit sometimes. Who knows? But if you can, please do. It really does help out the show. If you have an in-flight question, maybe a suggestion for another episode of TV that you'd like us to do, you can always leave those at tvpilotslicense.com or leave us a text and shoot us a voicemail at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some of the stuff we have coming up on our Instagram and all of our socials. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign-off, we look forward to playing the bright skies of the TV world with you soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
I'm done first.